on, here's a great voice. Somebody I haven't spoken to for a while. Former chair of the Tory party. Sir Jake Berry. JB, how are you?
I'm very well, Jeremy. Thank you for having me on. Lovely to see you again.
It's been a while since we shared 2 bottles of red wine and fell out that hotel across there. Look at his face. I've never had a drink in my life. JB, put it like this. Let's start. You know, because you're as straight as I am appalled by what I've seen in the last 5 months, but what it does to me is make me even more angry that the shower of rubbish that came before your party, and I know you are anti-Sunak, has allowed this to happen. I can't believe that there can be any government who's had the first 5 months like this, because, I mean, today already I've got farmers in tractors blockading Dover to prove that farmers are massively important. I've got old age pensioners phoning this show crying, saying they're going to freeze to death this winter. I've got, what did I have last week? Somebody who'd served in the Falklands. On the streets with PTSD, nothing, not getting any handouts, but immigrants are getting handouts. I mean, this you put in that petition, you talk about all these things. This is a disastrous government and purely socialist, Jake, isn't it?
Look, it's such a disaster for Britain. I'm really sorry about that because I wanted them to succeed, because I want Britain to succeed. And when you have an election, if there's a change of government, there's a change of government. But they have made a complete mess. And actually, I think that petition's really interesting. 2.7 million people now calling for a general election. Jeremy, you're right. I heard you a moment ago. It's not going to happen. But what I find amazing about it is Keir Starmer says, well, you've had your say. Well, in that case, why is he the man who is leading calls for a second referendum? I think it is right. We have had our say, but he's got form on this. He didn't get his way on Brexit. He said, we'll vote again. Maybe he should give the British people the opportunity to vote again if they're not happy with him and his government. It's terrible. Britain is in decline. Britain is not thriving. I want to see us succeed as a nation. I'm a patriot first before I'm anything else. And I'm just very, very sad to see the mess they're making of it.
And what did he do, our Prime Minister, a man who I believe wants to turn this country into a nanny state? He pitched up on this morning on the sofa where his little legs didn't actually touch the floor to be questioned by Andy Peters, who said, and I quote, because I saw this week, I mean, at the moment, your approval rating is worse than Nigel Farage, because Nigel Farage to the mainstream media is the worst person since, you know, the beginning of time. That was in itself something. But this morning, you're supposed to be the Prime Minister of this country. He cannot get out and talk to people. He spends his entire time abroad because he knows in a short space of time, I don't know what you think, I will tell you that your party left Downing Street with the highest taxation in 70 years. That's an appalling statistic. But this guy, after 20 weeks, has managed to alienate what I'd call some of the bedrocks of our society, pensioners, farmers. I mean, I don't know if you were watching the show. I'm live to a guy sat out there. He's a 4th-generation beef farmer. I know you represented a rural community. And, you know, he said, we're not... It's custodians of farms. We're going to be utterly screwed. But so are the British people, because the bloody government will end up importing food at 3 times the cost.
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, about the Andy Peters interview, I mean, you know, I thought Andy Peters did really well. He's no Jeremy Paxman, but, you know, the Prime Minister is really wooden. He's as wooden as Pinocchio and tells as many lies as him. You know, and Andy Peters had him pinned on a breakfast television show. It is not Newsnight or coming on and talking to you on TalkTV.
Sorry, Andy Peters is no Jeremy...
Jeremy Paxman.
Oh. Sorry, Andy Peters is no Jeremy...
Kyle. Okay, Kyle, you got me. Yeah. I mean, Jeremy Paxman's no Jeremy Kyle.
He's a legend. But no, you're right, and he doesn't seem to... I'd love to know, because you were part of you resigned. You had nothing to do with Sunak. Let's talk the other thing that's in the news today. Vauxhall yesterday blaming this electric vehicle obsession over its decision to shut the plant in Luton. Electric vans moving to Ellesmere Port. 1,100 jobs gone. You know, the government is supposed to be for working people. I also will blame I will blame Boris and Theresa May and Sunak. This obsession with net zero. Do politicians of all parties not understand, Jake? The British people ain't friggin' interested, excuse my French. They're interested in getting the things that we know, which are doctor's appointments and cheaper lives. That's really what they are.
So what I find tragic about this is that that's 1,100 people living around that Luton plant who no longer have a job, and they will all have a mortgage, rent, car finance, kids to look after. That is the absolute tragedy of those 1,100 jobs, as far as I'm concerned, just sacrificed on the altar of net zero. Look, we wouldn't have to punish manufacturers for not selling electric vehicles if they were a product we actually wanted.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. This all started with Theresa May bringing the net zero in, then Boris doubled down on it. And then Rishi said he'd relaxed it, but he hadn't actually, because he still left these stringent punishments in place if you don't buy an EV. I don't drive an EV. I've got no problem with people who want to do. They work really well in towns. They don't really, frankly, work outside major cities because the distances you want to travel are often too large. Do not let the market decide. This has been created by a group of civil servants sitting down and deciding what they think the winner of a technological race will be. Every single occasion that they do that, they get it wrong. This is like trying to force every single person in Britain to buy a Betamax video machine, VCR, when everyone wants, a smart TV.
I agree with you, but Boris, why didn't Boris dump it? We saw COP20 or COP Out 29 a couple of weeks ago. They all disappear off to Azerbaijan. The Taliban were there. That's interesting, isn't it? Keir Starmer was there saying, we're going to achieve 81%. This is the bit I don't get, Jay. Russia, China, that the countries that create the most carbon emissions were nowhere to be seen because they don't care. I would want my Prime Minister, my government, to be looking after my people. And I keep going back to it, and I want to put this to you as well before I talk about free speech. What happened in America was really interesting to me because you have a politician who has his flaws, you have a politician who was quite rightly slagged off for many things, a billionaire who should be out of touch, who resonated with 85 million Americans who were interested in the cost of petrol, the cost of bread, and the fact that their country was allowing people in who were taking services from them. I believe for a politician, I'd love the answer, but I believe that somewhere is somebody that's going to do exactly the same in this country because I think the British people have had enough. And I'm talking about normal, everyday people who pay their taxes and don't break the laws. It's not far-right extremism, Jake. I think people are genuinely at the end of their tethers.
I completely agree. There's not far-right extremism to say immigration is too high. This is just factually correct. I mean, this idea that anyone who's critical of the government, either this government or the previous government's immigration strategy, is branded as a far right. I mean, it's for the birds, frankly. It's ridiculous. I look forward to hearing them tweeting in the morning about it. Look, I think, in this country probably are heading for a Trump moment, if that's what you want to call it, because I think major politicians in this country have just lost touch with what the people want.
Stop going to focus groups then and go and meet the bloody people.
Go down the pub, walk down the street, go to your local market, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But why Trump won is that Kamala Harris's entire campaign was do not vote for Donald Trump because he is a bad person. But Trump's campaign was, I will help you get a better job. I'll help your family get a better job. Your life will be better if you vote for me. We don't, frankly, have that currently from any of our major political parties, even though I'm proudly still a Conservative. But we're not out there saying, well, if you vote Conservative, you'll be wealthier, we'll improve schools, we'll improve hospitals. Maybe that will come with Kemi. Everything is negative. Everything is about managing decline in this country. I am absolutely fed up of it. Because I've got 3 kids, I live in this country, I want this country to succeed, and I want politicians to come out and talk about issues that matter to me, and that top issue is how they're going to improve my life and my family. And frankly, whoever comes out with that narrative at the next election is going to be the winner.
What do you make of your new leader, very quickly?
No, she's got 2 challenges. First of all, she's saying that she's not doing policy, which is quite smart, but it's hard to go out there and campaign and not back policies if you don't have a suggestion of your own. That's the first challenge. And the second challenge is she's inexperienced. She is showing a bit of inexperience at PMQs, but Kemi is almost as good as Keir Starmer. On some days she's better than him. She is going to get better and better. He is not going to get better. He has had years doing this and he's still absolutely bloody awful. So I think, project work in progress, but I think it could be something really great. And
finally, you used to grace the House of Commons this afternoon. The Labour MP for Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley, a Tahir Ali who has form, asked Sir Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's question time, Sir Jake, will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions? Starmer, desecration is awful, forgot to mention possibly the most important thing, that we're a country of free speech, Jake. We're going back to the 7th century BC. What the hell, man? It's 2024.
Well, we could reintroduce the birch or other things like that if that's what we're going to do. But look, in my youth, I used to stand at bus stops in Liverpool drinking cans of cider with my friends and smoking the odd illicit cigarette, which is not something I'd recommend to everyone. And people used to come up to me and go, "Oh, you can't do that." I'd say, "Oh, it's a bloody free country, isn't it?" Or words to that effect. You can't say that now. We live in one of the most controlled societies in Europe. We have people being sent to prison for shouting at a police dog. We have people being sent to prison.
Oh, not if you're a paedophile, though. Not if you're a paedophile.
No, but live streaming events that happen, you're sent to prison because you're live streaming something on Facebook. This country is, I think going completely the wrong direction. And any further calls to take away more of our ancient freedoms, some freedoms we have enjoyed since the Magna Carta, Jeremy, they are being whittled away. This is another call for that. It really, really concerned me that this absurd comment to reintroduce a blasphemy law wasn't dismissed out of hand by the Prime Minister. He actually gave it some credence. So it's maybe the sort of thing he will look at. People, Britain, wake up. All of your freedoms are being taken away. And I tell you what, we had to fight for centuries to get them, and it'll be very, very hard to get them back.
Dinner and drinks before Christmas on me, JB. Great to have you on. Sir Jake Berry, former chair of the Tory party.